Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining me. Dr. Uche here. Today, I am so excited to have a fabulous guest on our platform. As you know, if you watched my videos before, I'm Dr. Uche. I'm a publisher, I'm a biography writing coach. I'm also just a bibliophile. I love books, everything books. I do book reviews, and I love to highlight works of fiction and even self-help and nonfiction from across the diaspora. So today I'm so excited to have, I'm like sitting with royalty here, okay? I'm sitting with dermatology royalty. And I want to start by reading her biography here in the book we're going to be discussing today. So today I have this Live and Look Younger by Dr. Kemunto Mokaya. Did I say correctly?
Yes, you did.
Perfect. So I'm going to tell you about her. Dr. Kemunto Mokaya, also known as Dr. Kemmy, Kemmy, okay, in case you want to look her up, is a board-certified Ivy League educated dermatologist, mindset coach, and speaker. She specializes in medical, surgical, and cosmetic dermatology. Dr. Kemmy has over a decade of dermatologic experience and has treated over 20,000 patients, guys, including many celebrities. Her mission is to empower people to optimize their skin health and overall wellness so that they can look fabulous, feel better, and thrive. Dr. Kemmy earned her Bachelor of Science in Biology and her Bachelor of Arts in African Studies at Yale University. She holds a master's degree in health sciences from Yale. She attained her doctorate of medicine from Yale University School of Medicine and completed her dermatology residency at the University of California, San Francisco. Passionate about helping people look and feel their best, Dr. Kemmy is a dynamic speaker who talks about the skin and mindset to audiences of all sizes. She is the host of the Live and Look Younger podcast. You all listening? Live and Look Younger podcast. A participant in the 2020 ASDS Future Leaders Network and a graduate of the Harvard Surgical Leadership Program, Dr. Kemmy is at the forefront of physician leadership. She has been featured in popular media and several magazines, including HuffPost, Allure, Healthline, and Ebony magazine. And she resides in Houston, Texas with her husband and 3 children. So I wanted to highlight those just so you know the caliber of the person who is giving us 30 minutes of her time today. And we are so thrilled to have you, Dr. Kemmy.
Thank you so much. It's also such an honor to be on your podcast and to be speaking to people about the book and whatever questions they may have.
Thank you so much. This is fabulous. And I'm going to let Dr. Kemmy tell us the inspiration behind this book because I've read through it. I was just telling her before I hit record button that I read through like a really good student. I'm in my very early 40s and I had that wake up moment one day that she talks about when you suddenly wake up and I've been juggling medicine and juggling children for over a decade at this point. And I'm like, hang on a second, what is going on? I am, that nice skin. I always used to think I was blessed to have good skin. I actually have to help my skin out a little bit. I think I'm aging a bit too fast, And so I had that wake up moment. And I wanted to tell us a little bit about the motivation behind writing this book.
So thank you for that opportunity. Pretty much, how they say there are many strokes that broke the camel's back. So for me, it was many things that led me into writing the book. And one of the things is, there's sometimes patients would ask me the same questions over and over again when they'd come to see me. And, the questions were not necessarily related to what they came for. Some of them would come for acne or they would come for skin checks. And then at the end of the day, they'd ask me, how can I optimize my skincare regimen? Or they'd ask me, how is my diet affecting how my skin is, or what other things can I do. And so in that 15-minute visit, when I've already spent like 12 minutes discussing the specific condition and we only had 3 minutes, it was just not enough justice. I didn't have enough time to give a good answer. And so a lot of times I'm like, oh, I might start a blog, or I might start this. But I told them some of the things you're asking are things that are kind of more general, and I might do this to give you information. And I had all these ideas of things I wanted to do to help disseminate the information, but nothing really stuck. And then a few years ago, I went to visit my mother in Kenya. That's where I grew up. And one of the days was really rainy when we had planned to go to the zoo with the kids. So she said, you can't go to the zoo. It's rainy. You really can't do anything. I want you to go to your old bedroom, and I need you to get through to declutter half of the stuff in that room. She was just tired of my room being intact when I hadn't lived there for so long. And she said, now you just have to get rid of things. This room cannot look like your bedroom anymore. It'll still be yours, but it should also be a guest room, and there's too much personal stuff. Sure. So you need to get rid of some of it. We'll donate some, we'll throw away some, and we'll keep a small memento. So as I was going through the list of things, I found a journal that I'd written when I was 16. At that time, Chicken Soup for the Soul was a new book. And one of the things that Chicken Soup for the Soul inspired me to do was that it inspired me to come up with a bucket list. And so I'd come up with a bucket list. And one of the things was to be an author of not just one book, but several books. Wow. So when I read that, I was like, okay, there's some things in the bucket list that I didn't make, or there's some deadlines I gave myself that I didn't make. But one of them was to be an author before I turned 40. And I was like, okay, I have some time left to get this thing going. So that motivated me to do it. And I was psyched to do it. But I think the really final thing that really motivated me to do it was when I was giving birth to my last one, my third child. So many people know that when mothers are pregnant over age 35, it's considered a geriatric pregnancy. So for my final pregnancy, I was definitely a geriatric pregnancy. And, one doctor had asked me, why did you get pregnant so old? Don't you know that there's so many complications? I brushed that aside. Right. But then when I had just given birth to my son, the nurses were rounding outside my door, and it was a training hospital. So one was training another. And so outside the door, she's like, yeah, this lady, she's, 38 years old and blah, blah, blah. And then they're like, she's a geriatric pregnancy and we have to be careful around them because they have more complications. And again, the name geriatric pregnancy was associated with me. And I was like, oh my goodness, yes, I really am older. And, there's some women who are my age who are grandmas. And so when my kids grow up, if I'm not careful, I'm going to be looking like their grandma, or they might be embarrassed to hang out with me. So I was just motivated. The way the nurses were talking about me, like I was an anomaly for having children so late, I just decided, you know what, I need to learn how to remain young and to look young as much as possible so that I can compete. Well, not really compete, but just kind of not look so much older than the 20-something-year-old mothers of the other kids. And so that was a final show. And I was like, I've always wanted to look younger. I'm going to be on a long maternity leave. Let me write a book. Let me just fulfill all things, answer the patient's questions. In the process of writing my book, I'll also learn all about looking younger, and I can apply that. So I think when it really became personal and hit home, that's when I decided, let me write the book. And especially because I know there are a lot of women in medicine who, or even other career paths, because you are pursuing your career, childbearing was just delayed because of the demands of school and other things, or for other people that we were so busy, caught up with school, that we found love later and the kids came later. So even though this book is for everyone, it's especially dedicated for the geriatric moms like me who are working hard and taking care of ourselves and our children, and who, even though we might be in our late 50s or even 60s, when our kids are graduating from college or from grad school, we're not going to look like grandmas, we're going to look amazing. So that's another reason why I wrote it.
Wow. And that is so true. I mean, we're high achieving people, like you said, in many professions. And we spent most of our time, I was just thinking, I spent my entire adulthood training to be a doctor and being in medicine. And so we get to these things later. And yet You know, there's something very interesting. You may or may not be conscious or aware of that, but in your book, what we often hear about, plastic surgery and stuff, it comes at the very end. And I think that's really important because it's okay if you actually want to go for those cosmetic procedures, but probably a majority of us are not necessarily looking for that. We are not necessarily wanting to cancel aging because it is something we embrace and we're proud of. I'm proud of my 42 years. You know, I've done a lot in 42 years. However, we want to optimize our skin health, right? We're saying, I want to be the best I can be at my age. And I don't mind, I'm not going to look like I was at 20, but I want to be the best I can be where I am. And I think that's so important. So I'd like for you to shed a little bit of light on that, because that is perhaps for me, that was the biggest take home here is, can somebody spell it out to me? Because I've spent hundreds of dollars, just shy of thousands of dollars on skincare products. They never work, right? People tout all sorts of things. And yet here you really break it down. And so to that woman out there who says, I don't have a problem with aging, I just want to be the best I can be at my age, I want to know what I need to do. Tell them why this book could be useful.
All right, well, I'll tell them why it could be useful. First of all, I just want to say you look amazing at 42. So you look like you could be in your 20s. So whatever you're doing, keep it up. And, you know, I like your observation for the cosmetic procedures being at the end, because a lot of times that whenever patients come to see us, at least for me as a dermatologist in clinic, and they specifically want to reverse aging, they're looking for those immediate things. They want the Botox, which we can inject, and within a week, the wrinkles have softened on the face, or they want the fillers that we can inject, and you know, right away they look good. And if they can put makeup to hide the bruising that's there, instantly they're looking younger. And I am glad that we have technology, and I'm glad that we have all these wonderful advances like Botox and the neurotoxins, fillers, you know, microneedling. We have all these things that will make people look younger, and that's amazing. But I put that at the end because I wanted the book to be more relatable to all sorts of people, because you know I now that I'm also now in my 40s, and now that I crossed over to the 40s, I'm willing to start doing those on myself. But before then, and I know that before then I wasn't willing to do the cosmetic procedures, especially because I was pregnant with my baby, breastfeeding. I know that many people who either because of their life situations don't want to do it, or because of their finances don't want to do it, or because of their beliefs they don't want to do it. So I wanted to offer the whole package where I'm like, these are other things you can do before you even get to your dermatologist to ask for cosmetic procedures. And again, I think there's nothing wrong with the cosmetic procedures. When I grew up in a very conservative Christian background where, you know, my ears are not pierced because we didn't even pierce our ears. We didn't want to modify ourselves. So for me to come from that conservative background where even piercing was wrong, to get to the point where I'm very comfortable and happy doing fillers and Botox, it took a lot of work. But I definitely know that there are people who still hold on to those conservative roots. And again, there's nothing wrong with that. And I wanted to start with information that would be relevant to them. And so that's why I wrote the book, because there's still a lot that people can do to look younger without having to step into a dermatologist's office. There's a lifestyle that we choose. There's a lot on lifestyle in the book about just simple changes we can make in our day-to-day life that will either age us prematurely or prevent and reverse the signs of aging. And then I also wanted to give information on skincare, because there's so much out there. I feel like every time I look around, there are new skincare lines, and it's so hard to keep track of them. It's hard to know what to use, what not to use, what's worth spending money on. And so I also dedicated a whole segment on that, because, you know, as a dermatologist, I still have a lot of products that I buy that I don't even use or don't work for me. And, you know, I think I'm an informed consumer. So I can imagine how confusing it must be for somebody who doesn't have the dermatologic training. And so in the book, I tried a little bit to help sort that out and to help people out with their skincare regimens, to help people out in terms of knowing what to choose for themselves.
That's really important. And to your point, you you are even sharing your background. You know, there are people for whom cosmetic surgery is not, or they're not comfortable with such things. But then again, we have to remember that there are people who medically need them, okay? So we want to really embrace everybody in their situation. There are people who survived horrible burns. There are people who have lost drastic weight and have skin that sags and they need people to help them tighten things up. So there are people who medically have need for such procedures. And we want to just acknowledge that everybody has a different goal in looking for skincare, looking for a dermatologist. Now, the one other thing I really loved about this book, it's one thing to sit and read paragraph after paragraph, but to get the reader engaged, to say, okay, calculate your skin age, you know, go through this set of questions and actually see what you're doing. Are you doing it well? Could you do it better? You know, I really love that aspect of this book. And then the other part I really liked was the skin type. You know, what's your skin type? Now, you guys, do you even know there's a skin type number? Something like that, right? I'm a cancer and blood doctor. I don't know anything about skin, right? Except for my chemotherapy causes some rashes, right? So, so to say that there's even a skin type and a skin age, could you tell our viewers a little more about the worksheets and the sort of tools you put in this book that they could use?
Absolutely. So when I was writing the book, I didn't want it to just be, I wanted it to be personal, something that people could apply to their lives and not just something that they can read. So I decided to put assessments because a lot of times people are thinking, does this apply to me? What about me? So for the skin age test is actually one part that took forever to develop because I really wanted an accurate assessment where people could say, you know, my biologic age maybe is 50, but am I doing things to make me look younger or older? So what I did initially, I scoured the internet and papers, and I kind of found some tests, some skin age tests that had already been developed by other people. And so in the book, I will say, you know, for example, this is a test that's used by Dr. Oz. So people can know, oh yeah, this test here is the one that was used in the Dr. Oz show. And it's a quick and dirty way to know how old you are. And there's also another skin age test by another physician that I use where you can pinch the back of your hand and see how quickly it takes for your hand to go down to assess how, you know, how firm your collagen is and how elastic you are. And even though those tests were great, I kind of wanted to have one of my own. So I spent a lot of time looking at other assessments, looking at papers, looking at research papers that's, you know, that talked about how different things you do will age you and take years from your life. And so I came up with a comprehensive skin age test that there are a lot of questions that you answer, but it's a more in-depth test. And that test just allows you to see where you're at in terms of your chronologic age based on your birthday versus how old your skin is. And it's, you know, for me, I found it a good wake-up call because when I was writing the book, I wasn't getting enough sleep. And because I wasn't sleeping well, I was eating a lot at night. You know, I'd be typing at 1 a.m. in the morning when the kids were asleep, getting hungry, getting my carbs. And, you know, I thought, I was doing my best to write the book, but when I did my skin age test, I was like, oh my goodness, all these things that I'm doing, they're aging me. And to be very, very frank, when I went into the mirror and looked very closely, I saw those signs of that premature aging from my lifestyle. And so that's why I created the test for people to know where they're at and to assess whether what they're doing is helping or harming their skin. And then by doing the test, if you see that there's room for improvement, it gives you motivation to follow the things in the book. Whereas if you do the test and you see that you're so much younger, then it's also motivation to congratulate yourself and to keep doing what you're doing. So that's why the skin age test was there, just to really motivate people and to make it real, to make it granular so that they have more motivation to read and follow what's in the book and also to keep rereading and tweaking things.
That's super helpful. You know, for me, that was the biggest thing here. And you know, when I did it like a really good student, I went to the website and yeah, nobody scream, okay? But I went to the website and I did my skin thing and I came up with a package. I'm like, okay, this is $321, but this is actually $321 that I'm going to spend. And I'm actually doing it right, okay? I'm actually getting good things because you know, there comes a time in a woman's life where we have so much on our plate, right? You're juggling work, many of us full-time work, you're juggling children, and you're juggling aging parents, right? And there comes a time when you have to, once in a while, it is not a crime to do something for yourself, right? Because it's that one body, that one skin you have. And when you're in the best health, you can be even better able to take care of those who are depending on you, right? And
Absolutely. I totally agree with you. And I'm so glad you were a good student and did that skin type test. So the skin type test that gave you a number, there's a researcher, that a very highly respected dermatologist in Florida called Dr. Leslie Bauman. She's actually the one who developed the skin type test. So there is a skin age test that shows you how old you are. Then the skin type test, which you did so well, that shows you your specific skin type. Everyone is in one of 16 different skin types. And the one thing I love with the work that Dr. Bauman and her team have done, they've really analyzed this in over I think at this point, over 300,000 patients, where they're accurately able to classify them based on their very specific skin type. And out of the 16 skin type, they found products that work for each skin type. So even though you did the test and then you got your products and you're like, oh my goodness, it's $300, it's $300 well spent that will work for you. And again, also for people who do that skin type and the sticker value is really important, there's an option to contact me personally, and I can find ways to, to kind of give you store brand alternatives that will still work, so that you can invest money in the products like the antioxidants that really need you to invest in the best top-notch quality. And then for things like, say, cleansers or some moisturizers, you may be able to find store brand alternatives that are much cheaper that still do the job. And so if people reach out to me, I'm able to kind of customize it for them so that it's not that high sticker price. But even if you pay that high sticker price, as you said, you're juggling so much, you need to spend time for you. And in teenagers and people in their 20s, they have the younger skin that's able to withstand trial and error, where they can try different things from the store. But I think once we get to our 30s, 40s and beyond, it's just better to have curated products that will work for you and not to experiment. I think leave the experimentation for the teenagers and the people in their 20s who have time on their hands and not as many responsibilities for the most part.
That is so true. And to your point, anyone watching out there, please don't wait till you're over 40 to do this, okay? In retrospect, I'd say once you hit 30, start paying attention. Aging starts catching up with you. Really, I'd say maybe 35, mid-30s, all the processes of aging start to kick in. And I'm not talking just skin, I'm talking your metabolism. We're all doctors here. We care about primary prevention. I'm talking diabetes. I'm talking losing weight, getting a healthy BMI. And interestingly, the good dermatologist here lays it out so clearly in her book that your skin is not just what you put on it. It's how much sleep you're getting. It's how hydrated you are. It's the kind of food you're eating, right? Fast food, processed food versus natural. So hey, those things do matter. They can actually matter a lot more than what you put on the skin. But I want, before we let her go, let's think of the average woman out there. She's 35. And goodness, if you look at the possibilities as far as the skincare things that one could have, you could easily have a table with 10 products. So she says to you, what is the bare minimum I need, right? And I want you to discuss that and refer to your book too. So mention what's here that could help her. What's the bare minimum? I want you all to see why you should get a copy of this book. I highly recommend it. Cleanser, toner, just to give you an example of what I'm trying to say. What does she need? What's the bare minimum?
Okay, well, thank you so much for referring to that, because part 2 of the book is all about skincare regimen. Pretty much the book is divided into 5 parts, and part 1 just gives you basics, part 2 talks about choosing the best products for yourself, and then part 3 is about the lifestyle, which as you've said, as an oncologist, the things that keep people healthy, that help them when they're fighting cancer. When I talk to endocrinologists and neurologists and other doctors, even though in medicine everything is so fragmented, at the end of the day, we're whole human beings, and the things that will help your brain health, that will help you fight cancer, are the same things that will help you have young looking skin. And so that's what part 3 is all about, those lifestyle changes that really, really, really make a difference. But then just going back to your question on the basic skincare regimen, if you really want to strip off all the excesses and have the basics, then you need a cleanser every single off the sweat and the drool and other things at night from the pillow, and then definitely in the evening to wipe off all the dirt and everything you accumulated. So cleansers are super important, and there's information here about how to select cleansers. And then everyone needs a moisturizer that works for your skin type. So people who have dry skin, it's kind of a no-brainer that you need a moisturizer, but even people with oily skin need moisturizers, because even though you're oily, the part of the reason why your body maybe produces more oils is because it detects dryness, and sometimes people with oily skin try to dry out their skin so much that they over dry it, and then the skin overcompensates by producing oil. So in the book I talk about people with oily skin, everybody needing moisturizers, definitely even with oily skin, because if you can get the right moisturizer, you can maintain your skin barrier and have healthy skin that's not so inflamed. So I'd say cleanser, moisturizer are the 2 minimums. And then sunscreen is also something that I highly recommend. Obviously, as a dermatologist, because we see that skin cancers are caused by UV radiation and also premature aging. It's thought that up to 80% of premature aging is caused by the sun. And so if you want to prevent that, if you have a lot of melanin like myself and Dr. Uche, and maybe your risks of skin cancer are much, much lower, you're still not immune from the UVA rays that are aging you, causing the sagging, the discoloration. And so sunscreen is important for that. So I'd say those are the 3 absolute minimum. But then after 35, you also want to look into skin treatments like, is vitamin C right for you? Are retinoids good for you? Are the B vitamins good for you? And so there's also information here on what the different ingredients are, what they do for you, and also how to select them and how to mix and match them so that you're not doing too much and then canceling the effects of one product with another product.
Okay. Wow, you guys, I have nothing else to say except go and buy it, okay? Everybody go get yourself a copy. This is Live and Look Younger from the fabulous Dr. Kemunto Mokaya. Thank you. We're so glad she could join us. Before she goes, I need her to tell us where we can find her on social media, where we can get copies of her book. But I'm going to get the information from her, and I'm going to put in a detailed link wherever this is posted on YouTube and also on our Facebook page. So tell us where we can find you.
All right, so you can find me on Instagram and Facebook at drkemmymd.com. That's Kemmy. MD, and that's my Instagram handle and my Facebook handle. I'm also on Twitter, but I'll be more active on Facebook and Instagram. And then in terms of getting the book, for those in North America, you can get an autographed copy of the book personalized for you if you go to www.drkemmybook.com. So that's drkemmybook.com, and you'll get it personalized. But if you'd rather not, if you have Amazon Prime and you want things in 2 days, then you can find it on Amazon, and you can either get it as the physical copy, which I recommend because I feel like it's more real when you touch it and feel it and move it around.
Yeah.
Or you could also get the Kindle version also on Amazon, as well as Barnes & Noble. In terms of international book sales, I will be traveling to Kenya this December with thousands of books, so it'll soon be in Kenyan bookstores, and then I'll figure out how to get it to South Africa and other parts. It's also in the UK, so you will find it on Amazon UK and get the physical copy easily there. But book distribution is not easy, as Dr. Uche will tell. It takes a while to get the books where they need to be.
Mm-hmm. Well, like I say, there's publishing and there's marketing. Take it from me, a publisher. I tell people, once you have it published, you've done the most important foundational work. The marketing, you can do that over 2-3 years if you like. At least you have the product, right? So
yes,
this is great. You guys, I'm going to put this information for you I am so excited to have you here with us, Dr. Kemmy. Thank you, thank you, thank you for giving us 30 minutes of your time. We wish you all the very best. If you ever decide to write more, be sure to tag me somewhere. Let me know you're writing something. I love to highlight books. And
absolutely.
So,
Thank you so much for doing this. I appreciate what you do. I love that you're a bibliophile. We all should read more because reading more expands our brains and expands our world. I feel like we're better people from all the reading that we do and from writing as well. So thank you for all you do.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. And we wish you a fabulous rest of your day.
All right. You too. Thank you so much.
I need to stop recording. Give me a minute.
Okay.
Here we go.